We're here with Evan Price, an awesome violinist from San Francisco. He plays with the Hot Club of San Francisco. Check them out. Let's play a tune, Evan.
Okay, after you've gone.
I'm still here. Welcome to my kitchen, friends. This is it. All previous videos were done outdoors, but now it's pretty damn cold. Can I say damn on YouTube? Well, I just did. Ooh. And that's Mr. Bear right there.
Don't listen to that, Mr. Bear.
I just spent the last few days with Mr. Evan Price here doing a series of videos for my DC music school. The logo will appear right here. Boop. And I hope to release this in 2020. Evan was a one-take wonder. Everything done in one take. Amazing. Just amazing.
Thanks, man.
And I thought we'd do this YouTube video to talk about something that we both we share a passion for, and that's
ice cream.
No. That's gonna be censored. Beep.
Yeah.
No, we're both fans of harmony. We're harmony nerds, and we love repertoire, learning tunes, and discussing what kind of chords we should use for this song and all that stuff. So it's kind of a continuation of my previous video. If you haven't watched it, go check it out on my channel where I talked about Gypsy Jazz rhythm. So here we're going to talk about repertoire. So yes, talk about repertoire, chords, chord voicings, and believe it or not, he's a violinist, but he knows a lot about harmony. Nice. I was seeing him do chord melodies earlier. Maybe I'll do some of that for you. And that's something that I believe in very much. That said, I want to tell you, by the way, I'm playing Pokemon Go while I talk to you guys. But yeah, never played it before or whatever. I'm not a dogmatic person. I know that I have strong opinions, but I also think I have very strong arguments to back up my opinions. Nonetheless, I think everything is based on context, and therefore anything and everything is possible. For instance, my expectations will vary according to the situation, the context. It's the same way when I teach. If I have hobbyists coming to me, then I'm not going to necessarily show them all the subtle details that I know. Maybe I just want them to have fun, and I try to find ways to make the learning experience fun for them. On the other hand, if someone who wants to be a professional musician has set very high goals for themselves, then that's maybe where I'll be more demanding on certain things, such as the topic we're going to talk about here. What about you? How do you teach?
I like that. I can be a little bit dogmatic to a fault, but I do have to remind myself, and I'm making more of an effort to remind myself that we're all in this to have fun, and what I offer is an opportunity for deeper enjoyment. And I understand that, especially as violinist, if you're classically trained in particular, or if you're a fiddler or wherever you come from, we're generally not as rigorously trained in terms of harmony as players of other instruments. And that's a shame, because melody, the way I look at melody is more of a consequence of harmony. And it's not just that the harmony enhances the melody, it's that the melody grows from it, and that's the way I play. And I'm just here to share my perspective.
That's a good point, but I think the guitar players, on the other hand, they're very big on theory, but not so good on melody. So I think every instrument has its own culture. Mm-hmm. But I think if you want to go beyond an instrumentalist, you want to be an actual musician, you have to kind of be like a conductor. Mm-hmm. Just know everything that's going on. But that said, it's all about having fun. Mm-hmm. And so the truth is, I can show so many things to everyone, but reality is often different. Like a hobbyist who only has time to practice 30 minutes a day and just plays for fun, doesn't gig, you don't have to do all these subtle things that we're going to talk about. So I think context is very important. You have to be very realistic with your goals and everything. So the thing that we're going to talk about is as if you wanted to, be the top dog. I'm not saying that I'm the top dog. Maybe he is, but not me. But this is the standard that I've set for myself anyway. I'm going to talk to you as if I were talking to Zach, who's behind the camera. He's my assistant.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful guy. Oh, hey. From Canada. And Zach moved to Montreal from the legendary land of New Liskeard. And there's going to be a little wink.
Ooh. Much better than the old Liskeard, believe me.
Yeah. He came here because he really, wants to take music very seriously. And so we work a lot on what I believe are very, very important things. And he's had the opportunity now to play rhythm for Duvet Dunayevsky. We just did a CD last week, 2 weeks ago. Played with Samson Schmidt. There's a tour with Chavalo Schmidt coming next year. And things like that. And we work a lot on accompaniment, a lot on musicality, time feel. I know you were telling me that with the Hot Club of San Francisco, Pazzo was really... Paul Mailing is very strict about that. Is that true?
Very, very strict. And to everyone's benefit.
I had a lot of fun moments with him when I went to his house in Oakland. I didn't get shot. And we jammed and we talked about things like this. I was like, wow, he thinks a lot like me. It's great.
Yeah.
So in this video, I want to talk to you as if I were talking to Zach. Make me a sandwich. If I were just talk about my experience, my personal experience over the years, I've had the opportunity to back up players like Birel Legrand, Angelo Debar, like really top dogs. And if there's one thing that I noticed is that with them, you either have it or you don't. And that means you have to know the songs. You don't know the songs, you have to learn it very quickly, sometimes really on the spot. Have you ever had those moments like that?
Yes.
Would you agree then that's like if you really want to, be playing with the top dogs, then you have to have a certain minimum level.
For sure. I've had moments where I embarrassed myself and I wish I could take them back because I didn't know the song well enough.
So you have to be adept. So this is kind of like the topic I wanted to talk about today. Nowadays, it's very common to own a tablet and to rely on charts. I have just like these bullet points here. And there are apps for that, like the iReal book, or is that what it's called? I don't know what it's called. I don't care.
iReal Pro.
iReal Pro. Gypsy Jazz players have a thing called the Django Fake Book. And really, those things I think are great. They're just tools. It depends on how you use them. Right. The only thing is that I think there are a lot of players, and even unfortunately professional musicians, who over-rely on such things, and they haven't developed the skills that I'm going to be talking about. And that's really where I think it's a big shame. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's there's no shortcut. We live in an age where there are more learning aids and more shortcuts available than ever before. But doing it the hard way is often has the greatest rewards. I would recommend using the things that Dennis mentioned, using the Django Fake Book once in a while, or going to iReal as a way to practice. But just remember that the true gospel, the true version of a song might be from the original recording. Maybe it's a Django recording, let's say. And if you're outsourcing the learning or the writing of that chart to someone else, you're relying on that person's ears rather than relying on your own. So always double check what is given to you. You can't necessarily trust it. I appreciate those tools, but you're also just relying on someone else. So go back to the original recording, listen closely, test every one of those chords because they're not perfect.
Yes, and we're going to address that in a second. Well, not in a second, in a few minutes. So just one more time, I remind you that I'm talking to you as if I were talking to Zach. So it's really very, very high expectations. And really, I think Zach is doing a really, really good job. Yeah!
Go, Zach.
We're going all the way. And for anyone else, don't feel intimidated. Do what you want. Use whatever you want. The goal is to have fun. That's always going to be my number one advice. And of course, things always depend on artistic vision as well. I have my views. I'm sure he has his views. And it's okay if you disagree with me or him or both of us, whatever. It's totally fine, but just hear us out. So I want to say straight up that I'm not a fan of fake books or things like this, because even though they're tools and all, even it depends on how you use them. For example, if I had a recording session with Evan like next week, I would probably make charts for him. I know he's a good musician. I know he has good ears, so there's no problem for him to use it. But unfortunately, as I said earlier, there are a lot of people who haven't developed these skills, and unfortunately, I've even met professional musicians who can't hear basic changes like minor swing, 3 chord songs like that, or transpose a very easy song like Autumn Leaves. And personally, I feel that's a shame, to go to like a fancy music school, to graduate with a degree, and to not have those skills. I don't know. It's just it's strange to me. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think yeah, we share a certain sense of a certain definition of musicianship. We have a vision of well-roundedness, which includes a strong ability to use your ears, in addition to an ability to use your eyes to play what's on the page, but also to improvise. That to me is well-roundedness. And some genres, if you come from a different genre or wherever you come from, put greater emphasis on different aspects of that, different skills. If you come from some kind of a folk music, which is mostly ear-based, you may not have learned to read very strongly. That's okay. That can work great. I mean, Django never learned to read music, as far as I understand. He did pretty well. However, I'm not sure that he was able to get full royalties for his songs. I don't know. He had to rely on others. Maybe he never found out if he got all the money that he deserved. There are downfalls, obviously. And today, there's no excuse. If we're talking to Zach right here, Zach, there's no excuse. If you want to be a professional musician, and you claim to be, if you claim to be committed to this, or you claim to be committed to the process of becoming a professional, do the work. You'll be happy that you did, and you'll just increase your value of musician.
Also, one thing that we talked about earlier off camera is that these books, they have created a standardized culture around the world where songs are always played the same way, using the exact same changes, because we're playing the music according to whoever wrote the books, that person's vision. And if you research the earliest recordings of various, maybe not earliest, but even today, modern recordings, you'll find that the really good musicians pay attention to the harmony and decide, all right, for this song, we're going to play it this way. And even with Django Reinhardt, I've noticed that for the same songs that he's recorded, one recording will be played one way, the next recording another way, and give you some examples of that. And for me, I think that's one of the greatest joys of playing a standard, is that you can revisit in so many different ways. How do you feel about that?
Not to put me on the spot, Dennis, but yes, and it's also the mark of a great musician that he has the ability, he has this sort of expanded concept, this vision of the music that allows for variation, for exploring different avenues that still work.
I actually wish someone told me this when I was early, because I didn't know. Yeah. I thought there was only one way to play a song, and when I saw other people do it, I was like, what? Why is it this way? And if I had known this, it would make things a whole lot easier for me. Mm-hmm. And even within the same song, like you can have a set of changes for the melody that are maybe a little bit more elaborate, but for the soloing, it can be simplified. And that was the case with Django when he played like Belleville, for example. There's chord changes for the melody, and then just the rhythm changes for the soloing. And that was very revealing for me.
Or vice versa. Sometimes the solo changes have a little intricacies that don't work under the melody necessarily, so you want to be more conservative.
Yeah. So the whole point is listen or explore. And one thing, I noticed you do this a lot, and I do this too, is that for me, I don't see accompaniment and lead playing as two separate things. I see them as two sides of the same coin, and they intersect. And I saw you doing some chord melodies of songs, just adding notes like that. And so that's another way you can discover what chords sound good over certain songs. How did you come about doing that? Was this something that you were always doing?
Well, I've always been interested in harmony, maybe because my first instrument was piano. But I studied. I don't know why I pursued a more harmonic approach, but always been interested in that, and I studied harmony pretty intensely. I was a music theory major, like you were, and for a time in college. And oh, secret's out now. Zach, don't tell anybody. And so I tend to think of everything as being able to be reduced to something like a church chorale. There's the melody notes, which sometimes are very intricate, but can be reduced and simplified into very simple, almost whole notes a lot of the time. And the bass lines, and I think of the bass line and the melody as counter melodies that work with each other. And if they don't sound good, or if the melody and the bass are playing the same note that's a little boring, I will tend to, if I write a chart for somebody, make sure the bass line is doing something more interesting, or play something different in the melody that point. So I'm always kind of listening very closely to that and other lines that are implied within the chord, just thinking of them all, as Dennis said, two sides of the same coin, but multiple voices in a choir.
Indeed. And I'll just say that, okay, it's true that I have a classical theory. I'm not ashamed of it. I love it. It was a fun topic, studying Schenkerian analysis, 12 terminals, and all that stuff. But to be honest, as far as jazz music, especially this style of music, harmony came from me more from an organic point of view. Like I was just lifting chords off records and just then discovering like what voicings to use just by trying them out while putting the melody on top. And like I said, a song can be played in so many different ways. One day I might feel like playing it one way, the next day I might feel like playing it another way. And we can take maybe a song like All of Me, for instance. We can do different versions if you want. And yeah, let's give this a try.
Okay.
Maybe Evan can play the melody fairly straight from the second half.
Okay.
And I'll play two different versions.
All right.
And very subtle changes anyway.
Second half, your tempo.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I did F to F minor, and just really on a whim I did D minor, then D minor 7 flat 5. Actually the original melody has... Did you know that one?
Yeah.
No one does it that way anyway, but I decided to put this on a whim. You don't have to. So I wanted to focus more on the F minor though. Here's another version from that part, from the F major. You might have heard this version. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I did F sharp diminished. It's another feel. And instead of D minor, I did D9.
Right.
Instead of D minor. It works with the melody.
Right.
So it's just a completely different feel.
And as Dennis's partner in this, I didn't know exactly what he was going to do, but I was listening closely, and I'm asking myself, since he knows about, is he going to do that this time, or isn't he? And he didn't. So I stuck with. Also, I had a feeling he was going to go F sharp diminished there, so I stayed away from that. I stuck with the melody, and Dennis knows enough to know about theory to know that that harmony works over this melody as well. It doesn't clash. The melody is in a different part of the scale, so there's the melody and the bass line together. There's the other version. Both ways work, but only because they work as counter melodies with each other.
Well, there you go. You're doing that chord melody thing. So how did you come about doing this? Is it like how did you?
Well, a combination of things. I mean, first of all, having studied harmony, but also having played a lot of solo Bach music, where the violin is expected to cover all of that. There's so much beautiful stuff where the melody, everything, the entire band has to be played by the violin. So. I happen to know where these chords are because they've come up, or they've been in the repertoire of the violin for literally 300 years now. So, I could do All of Me. through that way.
If we're gonna go back to step one, though, that means you have to know the changes in the first place.
Yeah, no, the changes.
I actually studied a lot of the Bach partitas, sonatas and partitas as well, like the 1004, the D minor one,
Right.
the Chaconne. There's a lot of things, and the 1006 E major one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of really great things. All that stuff. So check that stuff out, among other things. And it's the same thing for me. A lot of it comes from classical music as well, but it also comes from, first of all, knowing the changes, and then having a rough idea of the melody, and then I just try to just add the notes. I'm not thinking too much about like chord grips for guitar players out there. I'm thinking really each note, each voice. It has some really funky notes, and you can do it anywhere. I'll do it here, and I'll do another chord. There's no G over D minor, but I'll stay on the A7. And you discover all these things by trying to put the harmony and the melody together, and you see, oh, what notes can I put and all that stuff. Is that a similar kind of approach?
Yeah, and I like that you're showing this out of time. So this is a rubato tempo. I mean, you're kind of rushing through.
I was
for the
thinking
sake
it was
of
time.
Oh, we're so strict.
I was andante.
We'll turn the metronome on and check. But but I mean, I know if you were actually working this out on your own, you would take more time. You would work through very slowly and just let it breathe and let those harmonies ring through and try to find the juiciest, rubs.
I think right now we're improvising this, like you said, as you said, but obviously in the beginning, take your time, work things out. You can make it even more intricate than I just did. You can even do like fine bass lines. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see. Just for fun.
Why not?
Not by classical standards, it's illegal, but it was worth a try. So yeah, stuff like that. I think it's worth doing for every song. And I also do this with solos or lines that I transcribe, like, I don't know, this one, for example. Whoops, no. There. Etc., etc. Do you do stuff like that as well sometimes?
Yeah.
To find...
Yeah.
And therefore, that means I can play this anywhere. I'm not bound by the limitations of the guitar. Well, I am actually, but I can play it almost any position, any key. So for me, doing this is so much fun. It's also, this freedom is part of developing one's sense of artistic sensibilities. So my personal approach to learning songs is to listen to so many different recordings of the song. I try to even find the earliest recordings possible. And that doesn't mean that those are the best changes, but at least it allows me to see how it started. And then from there, I grab my instrument, then I experiment the same way I was doing with All of Me. And that's pretty much it. What about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I might learn a song because I have heard a recording of it that I love, and I would gravitate toward it that way, and just, I sometimes can be a little bit too wrapped up in just trying to recreate that recording. It might be a good idea to fall out of love or get a little perspective once in a while. If you have one recording that really just knocks you out, go find some others. You'll find something new, and it won't detract from your own, the first relationship you had with that song. It can only enhance it, and you'll always learn something new and have an expanded concept of what you're doing.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And of course, when you do this kind of work, you quickly realize there's so many ways to play the same song. And as I said earlier, Django famously recorded the same songs many times, and sometimes there were variations to the harmony. There's one. Do you play Artillery Lured?
Yep.
There's like, can you just solo over it a little bit, just 1A? I'll do 1A in one way, the one way he recorded. The second way, I'll do it another way that he recorded. And it's interesting that Django was thinking about these things.
All right, but he's not going to tell me which one first, so I have to listen.
Oh, snap.
Oh, snap.
So that was 1A. So the first A, I just did 1-6-2-5. The second A, I did modern rhythm changes, because the rhythm changes can be done so many different ways too. So yeah, there was a recording where Django was doing like this. And then you check out Birelli's recording. I think so, it was Birelli or someone. A flat 7 to G7. These are all possible and they should be explored. You should just ask yourself, oh, what do I like, and that stuff. And when you work it out this way, you develop your ears. You get to hear how they affect the song.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Something I haven't talked about at all yet. Especially if you're a string player, if you're a melody instrument player, not a guitar player, and you're getting into playing gypsy jazz, what I found, and I've been playing in the Hot Club of San Francisco now for over 20 years. But about 3-4 years in, I realized that there were some situations when I couldn't hear the harmony as well as I wanted to, and I desperately wanted to, and sometimes I could get lost if it was a noisy situation, whatever. And I found that if I looked at the guitars, I still didn't know what was going on. So I thought, time to learn the guitar. So eventually, that's what inspired me to pick up a guitar and learn the chords, because I knew I would have to, at some point, look over at the guitar player's fingers and know what they were doing. And that helped immensely, helped my understanding of harmony and what the patterns are in all these tunes, being able to identify them visually, but also just practice them and play them on the guitar so that I know what to expect. Like Dennis just told me he was going to play 2 different versions there, and I had a pretty well-educated guess about what those 2 versions were because I know what those patterns are. And I could just look over at his hand and go, he's doing the walk-up this time, or he's just doing the straight 1-6-2-5 this time. I can also hear it because we're in a quiet environment. But I strongly encourage anybody, any instrument, if you're a bass player, if you're a violinist, clarinetist, accordion player, learn to play a little bit of rhythm guitar if you want to play with guitarists, because for one thing, they talk about their instruments all the time, and you want to be able to. Well, a lot of them do, and you want to be able to, talk string gauge with them once in a while. If they lack the skill to talk about anything else, at least be able to talk about their guitar.
I'll show you my pick if you'll show me yours.
Or you can just shun that topic altogether.
But actually, you raise a good point, because when I was younger, actually, I couldn't really hear chord changes so well. And when that happened, I just asked people, or I'd use charts to just figure it out from there. And now, how did I develop my ears? Is by learning. I don't know about you, but for me, it's once I learned 100 songs by heart, I started to hear the chords.
Yeah.
I don't know 100, 50, 30, but eventually, I don't even know how many songs I know.
Mm-hmm. It's language immersion.
Yeah. When I started learning the repertoire, I could suddenly start to recognize what was going on. Mm-hmm. And there's also a nice tune. You do play Manuel de Mirer, don't you?
I do.
I don't know if you know these. Just play the melody simply if you want.
All right.
There's the first version that was something like this. 1, 2, 3. So that's like the classic version. I interrupted your beautiful solo.
I didn't play the melody that simply, sorry.
It's okay. So let's do it again. This is another version. I don't remember when, but much later. 1, 2, 3. Different feel, right?
Yeah.
So Django recorded this not with those voicings necessarily, but one was just one chord, then kind of a 5 chord. The other one was just 1 6 2 5. So it's really cool.
Yeah.
So nowadays, my approach is not to assume that there's only one way. And when I'm working professionally with a leader or with a band or something, the first question I ask is, what changes do you want? How do you play it? It goes for every single song, like a blues, a rhythm changes, because there's so many different kinds of blues. You go to music school, you often just learn one kind. Etc. But there's also blues that goes. It's a completely different kind of blues. So I never assume, because when you assume, I'm not going to say it either. So with all this said, I'll just say one thing. This is, I know that not everyone shares the same artistic vision as I do, and that's totally fine. But these are things that are very, very important to me. I know like in a lot of gypsy jazz nowadays, they don't care so much. They just play whatever chords and that will be that. But you know who one person really cared? Django. He cared. I've transcribed so much of Django Reinhardt's, not his solos, but the harmonies that he was using, his voicings. And I'm so convinced that everything was chosen very deliberately. When he would make a dissonance, it was on purpose. Like you can watch the J'attendrai video actually. It's the one video of him that with their sound. Yeah. And he had that handicap, right? It would have been very easy for him where these two things were kind of like fused together. He could kind of wiggle in for chords. A C chord would have been very easy for him to play like this. But yet in the video, he's doing this, which is so much more awkward. For me, that's so deliberate. He wanted this sound.
Yeah.
He didn't care that he had a handicap. He was going to go for it. So if you don't believe me, believe Django.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that video because that's what I was thinking of when you were doing All of Me with the chord melody, because that's a perfect example. That's Django working out on chord melodies.
Oh, yeah.
It's a staged moment, obviously, but he's playing a very chord melody, very deliberate, kind of exploratory version of that tune, which we typically play as a medium swing tempo, but he's really trying to get deeper into the harmony and just find as much beauty in it as he can.
In fact, at one point during that melody, it goes da da dee da dee da da da. He does an F9, but other times he does B7. In fact, during the chord melody, he does B7. He does this voicing.
Yeah. Right.
So, like I said, everything's deliberate.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
That's great. And with that F9, it's really an F7 sharp 11.
But he's doing this in the video, I think. We probably don't even hear this though.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So why don't we check out a few songs and to show you just how much harmony can affect the character of a song. So for myself, actually, before even deciding which chords I'm going to use, I decide in which style am I going to play, because there's so many ways to play a tune, so many styles. Like, am I playing 1930s style? Am I playing after 1930s, like 1950s, blah, blah, blah? Or am I just not even caring? Because sometimes that does happen. And when I'm not caring, I just go for whatever. Just like when we're playing After You've Gone in the beginning, I just went for it. Mm-hmm. But if like you're telling me, all right, this is a 1930s band, then I deliberately use simple voicings. I don't play minor 7 chords when it's a 2. Sometimes I don't even play the 2. And if I do play a 2, I play it minor 6, which turns the 5 chord into a 9. You probably don't understand what I'm talking about, but it doesn't matter. Actually, let's play I Can't Give Anything But Love.
Okay.
I'll play it in sort of a 1930s style. See if you can hear the difference. And then we'll just do the first 8, and then after the first half.
Okay.
The first half in an old style. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'll do it in a slightly more modern style, a little bit more 1940s, like bebop. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I played the 2 chords, and even like instead of G over B, I did B minor 7, things like that. So it changes the mood a little bit. And so in the 1930s, I'm not saying that 2 minor 7 never existed. I'm sure people might have played it, but often it was just a 5 chord. Like if we play a song like Dinah.
Okay.
Can we play Dinah?
Let's
Just like
find out.
1930s, 1920s, 1930s style. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just 2 chords, 1 and 5. Yeah. And if I want to play in a slightly more modern, okay, I'll put the 2 chord with the minor 7. Okay. Things like that. And I think that's very cool to explore. So speaking of 2 chords, another one that's very interesting is a tune Coquette, which is widely played in Gypsy Jazz. Mm-hmm. And I'll play it the way most people today play it.
Okay.
Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and I included also a passing chord, a D sharp diminished to get to the E minor, okay, 7. Mm-hmm. And now I'll play the original way, in the way Django played it, and you'll see that the passing chord is going to be different. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. My fingers fumbled a little bit, but I just did D, and then before going to, I didn't go to E minor, I went to A7 directly, but before that I did a little D diminished, and then for the turnaround I wanted to do F diminished. I should have done D over F sharp, and then to E minor 6, but which is actually A9. So that would be like in the 1930s way.
Yeah, can I comment on that? Because that changes. And I'm, of course, paying close attention to what Dennis is doing and trying to match my style accordingly. Now, I noticed that when he plays, in the first version, he played the E minor 7. He played the 2 chord there. That has an effect on how the melody sounds.
It does.
Can you play your E minor 7 there?
Which one do you want? Like
the E minor.
I don't remember what I did. That's the melody, though.
Right. So it's technically, with the melody notes there, it's technically now an E minor 9 or even an E minor 11.
I probably just did E minor 7, like I don't remember what I did.
Okay. Well, regardless, even if you just play the 7, I'm now playing 11 and 9, which is this very sophisticated kind of cool sound. And so that makes me, and I hear that, of course, because I'm awesome, and I change my sound. I play it a little bit more sweetly because I'm trying to enhance that character, and I'm trying to go with that character rather than when you just played the straight A7 when we got there. Now I'm going to just play your A7, yeah. It turns that F sharp into the 13th of the A. You were just playing the 7th, I think, and letting me do it. Yeah, very straight, very open sound. It's a lot more open. It's a lot more direct. Kind of more like a primary color. And so I played with a little bit stronger sound.
Should we do this for the audience? We do 1A with E minor 7,
okay,
and 1A without, and just hear the difference.
Okay.
Maybe if you can play the melody the same way though, so they can actually just focus on the harmony.
I'll try.
You better. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. you can hear the difference. That's how Django played it, by the way. His accompanists were doing this. I think he recorded this in London, in England, with 2 British guitar players. And I actually figured out the voicings. It was this. And sometimes variations on that. So yeah, so that's already one thing. Which style am I playing in? Which voicings do I use? And then I decide which chords do I use. So actually, the 2-5-1 chord progression is very interesting because you have actually A minor, if we're in G, A minor to D7. For me, I don't know about you, but I consider them to be the same chords. I think A minor 7 as a D sus thing, where you have the G going to F sharp.
It's the difference of a bass note, that's it.
Just one note. But that's more something that's associated with after 1930s. In 1930s, they were just this. So if they played even A minor, it would be A minor 6. So it's just D9. So you lose that motion. So it depends on what you want. So let's look at a few more tunes. How about Norwegian dance, Danse Norvégienne?
Okay.
Let's play it the original Django way, which I think you know. I was very surprised when we recorded those lessons. He wanted the Django changes.
Huh?
My goodness. My goodness.
What can I say?
What a guy.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
Django changes. Kind of the modern way. I don't know who popularized the modern way. I heard a rumor that it might be Boulou and Elios Ferré. Could be possible, but it would sound something like this.
Okay. 2, 3.
So what's the difference? In the Django way, it's actually from Grieg. Norwegian dance is from Edward Grieg. A diminished to A9. I think that's what it was. It's been a long time, but at least close to that.
That's what I'm used to, yeah.
And then the modern way, F sharp minor 7 flat 5, B7. It just changes the character. Actually, the original Grieg version, can you just play the first few bars?
Sure. 1,
2, 3, 4. That was the original Grieg version in the key of A. Yeah. So for me, it's so much fun to discover all these little things, these subtleties.
Yeah. And again, for me, I tend to analyze these things numerically. In the Django way, that second chord, G minor 6, and that makes the melody note the 9. It's so rich and expressive. It makes me want to give that a nice, thick, rich vibrato. In the Grieg way, okay, that's an A augmented, and I'm playing the root. It's a lot less interesting for my note. There's a lot less that I can do with it to make that expressive. It's just the root. It's 1. It's the 1 of that chord rather than the 9 of the chord. And the higher the number for me is, the more expressive and sophisticated the note.
Nerd! It's like, there's one I like, Sweet Sue.
Okay.
And what should I say about this? I'll show you. I've discovered a number of versions, and I don't even know which one to attribute them to. But I'll just say one thing, is that when Django recorded this, I think he recorded like once or twice, 2 times or 3 times. But in one of the versions, I can distinctly hear what the rhythm players are doing. But Django is superimposing dissonant harmonies over it. And I think I could be wrong, but he might have got his dissonant harmonies from Benny Goodman. So let's do one version where I play. And so the dissonant harmonies that Django plays seems to be what everyone plays today. I think it's on I could be wrong, but it's in the Django fake book or something.
Could be.
Maybe I'm wrong. But let's give it a try.
Give it a whirl.
Actually, I do remember what the Django fake book said. It was not referring to the B part. I don't know what the B part, but I remember the A part. I was at Django in June, and I thought, why are you guys playing it this way? It has this 2 minor 7 chord. Can you play the melody and let's do it together? I'll do 2 minor 7.
The B part.
No, A part.
A part. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Personally, I find that very ugly. For me, it's subjective. I prefer just D7. It fits the melody quite nicely.
Okay. 1, 2, 1.
So the B section, this is what I'm talking about. So this dissonant thing. It's a chromatic walk down from G7, G9 if you want. G7 maybe.
Right.
But Django's rhythm players are doing this. Can we take it from the B
Sure.
section? No, the second A to the B.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
Isn't that really nice?
That's very nice.
G to B minor over F sharp, D minor over F to E7. That also greatly simplifies the improvisation too.
Yeah.
Rather than having to do.
That's true. But what I like about it, that's my favorite so far. What I like about it is the D, my melody note, is essentially the same on all 4 of those chords.
Yeah,
but it
yeah,
changes the character of my note. All I have to do is sit on this D, the third. Yeah, it changes numbers in the context of the chord with each one. So I just keep singing away, and it's like the music happens. You know.
I think there's another version I got. I think I got this from the Mills Brothers. Can we do again the second A going to the B?
Great.
It's a different thing.
1, 2, 3, 4, go.
Here it comes. Kind of simple.
Yeah.
G7
Yeah.
to G sharp. But what's cool is for the improvisation, it has different possibilities for each version.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, it's a nice tune. What are the two? Oh, there's one. Want to do that cheek to cheek thing?
Okay.
So we're gonna play Cheek to Cheek, and it was from a movie. And this version that I'm gonna play might not be exactly what they did because it was a while back, but I think I remember most of it, and it will sound something like this.
Okay. 1, 2, 1.
And then there was another version. I don't know, like I learned so many versions that I don't even know who did what anymore, and I might even mix things up. But this probably is a version that might be closer to what you will find in a chart nowadays.
Okay.
If I can even remember what it was. Let's see.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I added an extra chord at the end for fun.
I like
Because I know it worked with the melody.
Yeah.
This is D minor 7 flat 5. Actually, in Frank Sinatra, I think it was Frank Sinatra's version. The accompanies stay on the D minor, just 2 beats longer to do. I think it was that version.
Yeah.
So what did I do? The first version, the original, I think was well. First, I don't put a 6th chord, just 1. And maybe they even just did like D minor 6. So I did 1, 2 minor as a triad, the G7. Then I do this walk up C. I think in the iReal book it says D minor 7, which is kind of weird because. No, wait. How's it going? But I put it should be G7 or G9 over D. It works better with mi, da. And then C over B, which makes C major 7. La,
Over E, yeah.
Over E, sorry. Yeah. Because you play the B, sorry. And then F, some sort of F. E7. A7, D7. So the other version I did 1-6-2-5. And it can also be a 1-6 dominant. You can do that too. So all these things to explore. But then the walk up is C, D minor 6 or G7 over D. D sharp diminished. Some sort of E minor 7.
Yeah.
B flat 7 flat 5. And
Yeah.
A7.
What a juicy note that is now.
Yeah. G7. Then I think I went to E7. Whereas in the original version, it went to an A sus, like a B flat baby.
Yeah.
So all these wonderful things to explore. How about the C section?
Okay. Sure.
Wow.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
So I think that was the original version of the song. Sorry, C minor to A diminished. And I think they went to like G. And then before going to A minor, they did a G sharp diminished. And then A minor, and you hear this walk down.
Yeah.
D7 to G. And
Nice.
what is it that that people do nowadays? I think they go to A flat 7 instead, right?
Yeah, A flat 7.
There's that. Then
Also
G7.
works.
And then what do they do after?
Probably just a walk down from. Yeah.
There we go. All sorts of things to explore. Just keep your ears really open. So that's a really fun tune.
Yeah.
We were talking about J'attendrai earlier. And if you do this chord melody exercise I talked to you about, so let's go. You're going to discover which chord voicings work with the melody. And I actually don't remember what Django did because his version is a little bit different than what I do. But there's the part in D minor where I see everyone does this. But the melody. And it's, so that's what I said, like, yeah, with harmony, I think it's good to be very careful with what you want to do. This would work for the soloing part. You can agree, like, to play the melody one way with certain chords, but for the solo, right, do this. When it's time to solo, you have more room for dissonance, and sometimes those dissonances can be nice.
Yeah.
But if you're accompanying a melody, maybe you might want to make that melody stronger by actually playing right chords, especially if you're playing with a vocalist.
Oh yeah. All right. So what would you recommend on that spot?
The way I do it personally, I just make it simple. I don't know what Django do, but I just stay on D minor actually. So da D. Stay on D minor. Then I go there. That's right. Do you have any preferences?
That works.
Yeah, I forgot what Django did. Another tune. Do something else. This is an interesting thing. This is one song where someone taught it to someone who taught it to someone, and every time it changed.
Mm-hmm.
And and in changing the harmony, they also changed the melody. And Django never did this, as far as I know. He only recorded this song twice. So, like, let's say the second A. A flat. The second A, yeah.
Yep.
So a lot of people play that song this way nowadays. So they learn it from someone. But the original version is just D7. D, 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 da, da. And sometimes Django, for fun, he would do. But it's still cool. So what's what I did is E flat 7, D7. But then there's one version where Django superimposed the dissonance that's really cool from the second A, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. C sharp diminished. So C minor, C sharp diminished, D. And he even does an arpeggio, I think.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then what you learn from this, that in your solo, if you want, even if the rhythm player is supposed to be a G minor, by the way, if even the rhythm player is playing G minor, you can superimpose this dissonance. And that's what he did with Sweet Sue and other songs. You have anything on it?
Yeah, what about minor swing?
Yeah, I was going to talk
the
about that.
controversy of the B flat chord.
So yeah.
Because when I listen to it, when I listen to the original recording, it's only the bass player who plays B flat, and he only plays it a couple of times, and the rest of the rhythm section is just playing there.
And they do it he does it on the second bar.
Yeah.
And nowadays people do it on the first bar.
Right.
I don't think it's a controversy because that was just the 1937 version.
Yeah.
In the other versions, I think they just did E7, right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing. I personally don't think the B flat as being very bad. I think because if you play E7 over B flat, it's still kind of in the same.
I just, my only objection to it is that it's become gospel, and this is again back to the point of don't believe the chart, don't play the chart exactly the same, don't play it exactly the same every time, especially, well, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say be inconsistent, but don't believe the chart and never look beyond the chart, because the chart might be transcribed from one chorus, from one recording, from one tiny slice of time in 1937, whereas, but 30 seconds later, they played it differently. 30 seconds after that, they played it differently. And it makes the transcriber's job difficult. But if you understand that that's one moment, that B-flat chord happened that time, maybe it was just the bass player and not the entire rhythm section. Maybe it was the entire band. Maybe Django dictated it. Whatever. It was just a flavor of the moment and not necessarily to be played for the rest of history.
Well, like nowadays, though, on minor swing, the second half before going to D minor, everyone does A7 too.
Right.
And I think Django didn't do that as far as I remember.
Never did. No.
Things like that. But there is one thing that B flat doesn't bother me so much whether they put it or not, and whether they put it first or second. But one thing that, for me anyway, it depends, everyone has different opinions, but is when people go in and out of doing things like the second half instead of D minor, they do, which is fine.
Yeah.
But when sometimes I'm in my idea, I'm about to play an A minor 6 arpeggio. Okay, it kind of works over this, right? A minor 6, right?
Yeah.
But this one, so you don't tell me it's like, I lost my idea,
Right. Okay. So this brings up a whole other topic. Accompanists, listen to your soloists. Listen to what the soloist is doing. It's not just for the soloist to be listening to the rhythm section. If your rhythm section is hell bent on playing that circle of fifths thing, you gotta anticipate it. You gotta go with it when you hear it. Don't play your A minor A minor 6 arpeggio, and let it clash. Try to keep your ears open to those things. But also, it's a two-way street.
And accidents do happen. It's okay.
Accidents happen.
That's totally fine. But there's another one too that people do is D minor, C minor.
Yeah.
That's another one I've heard.
You know what? As a listener, as long as the band is listening to each other, then I want to listen to them. If they're not listening to each other, I get turned off immediately. I'll go to the bar. I'll go home. I'll skip it. Turn off the CD.
3-4 variations on minor swing right there.
Yeah.
Likewise with Dark Eyes, you were talking about that one moment. So Django recorded Dark Eyes 3 times, and nowadays in Gypsy Jazz, everyone plays the one that has the B flat chord. And it's funny because in his solo, Django doesn't think about the B flat. I don't think he ever did.
No.
And he was playing D minor over it all the time. So it's another one. That's what I said. What I said earlier when I work with people, I ask them, "What changes do you want?" I think it's good not to assume about the chords.
Very smart.
And let's see, what else can we do? Oh, rhythm changes. So this one is very fascinating for me.
Yeah.
I explored the original. Let's all do it in what key is good for you. Like I got rhythm like in C, just the A section.
Okay.
And if I remember correctly, the original version is just 1-6-2-5. Can we just try that?
Sure.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then at one point, people decided to dress it up a little bit. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I did an F minor there. Then some people did F sharp diminished, and so on and so on. And that rhythm change is very interesting for me because Nowadays, you go to a person who graduated from music school, there's only one way to play rhythm changes, and it's like this. If I do it in C, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
They always do it that way.
You did a G minor 7 at that.
I did. I did.
That's a new one on me, but yeah.
Some people do that. Not everyone, but it's a close variation to that.
Yeah.
But here, when you were playing that melody, I know what the melody is. So you do da 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 la da da da. Whereas nowadays it's la da 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 da. That's the common rhythm changes nowadays. But then listen and be open to the idea that there can be so many different ways to play the same song. Oh, There Will Never Be Another You is one that I love.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know if you ever looked at some early versions, but it's some really cool stuff. Let's play just the first 8 bars or so, the way most people would play today.
Okay. E flat?
Yeah.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Just kidding.
Some people might do that.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. But one of the early versions of this song was recorded this way in a different key, but let's just do it.
2, 1, 2, 3. Cool. Yeah.
So I played a D minor 7 instead of D minor 7 flat 5. I think that was the original version.
That sounds familiar,
interesting.
yes. Yeah.
Then I didn't go to the 2 chord of B flat. I did E flat 9. The A flat. A lot of people do D flat 9. But the original is just A flat minor. That's another thing. Like back in the day, there's that 4 minor chord was very, very popular.
Of course.
But then I think musicians got bored with it and they realized that D flat 9 is close enough. The flat 7 7.
Yeah. Right.
That's what they did in Cherokee too.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later. But one thing that I like about There Will Never Be. How do you play the ending? That's always one disaster.
So,
In so many ways, huh?
I mean, what I would do is...
I mean, what's cool, it's all
safe.
diatonic though. It's all in E flat, but all the...
Right. To be safe, I would go a whole bar of E flat. And now maybe G half diminished. C7. Yeah. Pretty standard.
That's pretty cool. I think a lot of jazz musicians, they do G minor, da, G minor, and some people do E flat, D7.
Right.
And
or even just a straight chromatic walk down. E
yeah,
flat,
yeah,
D to...
yeah. Kind of works.
I love that too, actually.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, if you
Yeah.
go paint by numbers, perfectly fine. That turns the B flat into a 13, and the E flat into a 9, and here's the C7 chord, flat 13. Yeah, that might be my favorite actually.
There we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's fun. But then one version that I found. Can we do this slowly? Da, 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 da.
Sure.
So 1, 2, 3, 4. I did E flat, D7, G minor 7 flat 5 over D flat.
Yeah.
That was one of the early
Very nice.
versions. But even before that, da 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 da. We do that very slowly in time.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
F13. Yeah.
That's one of the original versions. E flat, G7 for 1 beat, C minor 1 beat, then F, then we do the da, da, da. That's a pretty cool thing
Very
to
nice.
explore.
Yeah.
We were talking about another song earlier. Cherokee.
Yeah.
One of the original versions of Cherokee. Can we play that? I'll show you 3 ways. The music school way, the Gypsy Jazz way,
Okay.
and the original way. Let's do the original way.
Okay.
Super easy. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Super simple. B flat, B flat 7, E flat, E flat minor. Music school way. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So B flat, F minor 7, D flat 7, E flat major, A flat 7. That's that flat 7 7 we talked about.
Yeah.
B flat.
Or you can go right to G minor right there.
That's gonna be the Gypsy Jazz.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Way
I
we're gonna
ruined
do
it.
Gypsy Jazz way.
Okay,
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I went E flat to D7 to G minor. And that's how a lot of Gypsy Jazz players do it.
Is that allowed?
There we go. There we go. Things like that are really fascinating for me. Let's just, let's do one more and maybe we'll see. How about I'll See in My Dreams?
Okay.
And especially the second half. Can we do the second half?
Okay.
That's how a lot of people play the second half. 1,
Yeah.
2, 1, 2, 3, 4. That part. Da-dee. We can put D7. And maybe that is the original version, D7. But I like to have da. I like the A. I like that.
Sure.
Pretty cool. Da, 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 da. And I also put an E7 in the F chord, but in the original version, I think Django didn't do it. Not the original version, but the Django version. But all these things are optional, and you can explore all the different things. Likewise, at the end, the first half of I'll See My Dreams, I think it stays on C7. Da, da. But I like to do C7 to F7. So da, 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 da,
Straight in, yeah. It skips that step in the circle of fifths. It's true.
I like to add it though.
Yeah,
So it works with the melody.
sure. Yeah.
Let's do flat times. So that's just so cool, man.
Yeah.
And one thing that I like to do though is I mean, of course we're playing Gypsy Jazz here, but sometimes I try not to be, how do you say, too much a prisoner of the style, and I sometimes try to do things in my own way. And one thing I especially like to do this on ballads. Can we play a Norwegian dance? Can you play the melody?
Let's find
And I'll
out.
show you, instead of just doing like how much more interesting it can be. Well, maybe not to you.
All right. Two.
Slow, a bit slow.
Okay. 2, 3. Very nice.
Things like that. That's inspired a lot by Bach.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. Do you play Clair de Lune?
I like to think so.
That's another one where I can have fun and just think a lot more like Bach. And let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Okay. 2, 3.
I took a lot of things from the chakan there. There was that. Bach chakan.
Right.
Things like that can be a lot of fun to explore as well. So you're not just like, sometimes it can be nice to explore things like, in my opinion anyway.
In your opinion.
So yeah, I hope this video has kind of given you some ideas to explore the wonderful world of harmony.